to another session of Real Talk. And Matt, you're here again. You're the best, thank goodness.
Happy to be here again.
Awesome.
It's great. Yeah.
I'm very happy to have you here.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about sellers, their expectations, and what's been happening in the market.
Sure.
So year to date, up to September, we've had 2,633 homes sold.
Yeah.
Out of that, 1,119 of the homes sold under asking.
Under ask.
Right, and there was 225 at ask. Yeah. So where do you think, is it because sellers are, have different expectations? They still want to catch the whirlwind of the crazy market that we had for 2 years ago. Is the agent buying the listing?
Yeah.
Or is it just a multitude of factors what's happening in our market?
We're back to how it normally operates here, right?
Yes.
Is what I would say, right? And so, agents and sellers do their very best to put a price on a home that people are going to be attracted to. That's the way that it's always worked. We've always worked very hard to figure out, hey, this is the value. Let's go portray that to the public. And then the public always will kind of come in with the presumption that there's a little bit of wiggle room there, a little bit of negotiation. And for years and years and years and years, that's how it worked. And in a balanced market, there is that sort of negotiation. During COVID, we got way out of balance.
Oh, there was no balance.
Yeah, and so sellers had all the authority, all the power, and they could just command whatever they wanted there. And even if they listed at the price that they thought was maybe the right value, they were still getting offers, sometimes hundreds of $1,000s over that. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that we're back to a normal market cycle where, you do your best to put the right price on a home. There's still going to be the perception that there's a little bit of room to work with there. And we're going to see this as sort of the norm going forward, is that most homes are going to sell for a percentage between sort of 96 and 98% of what they are listed at.
Funny that you mentioned that number. So prior to COVID, when I was sitting with a seller, you're going to sell at 97% of asking price. During COVID, how much money do you want to make on your house? Yeah. You want to get 600? Okay, we're going to list at 475.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now I go into a house, and granted, anytime I do a market analysis on a house, it takes me a few hours. Yeah. I'm looking at 50 pictures. I'm writing notes on everything, and I feel not overconfident, but I feel very confident in my number when I'm sitting in front of a seller.
Yep.
And I just went on a listing appointment, and they had just purchased their house last year. Yeah. And they did a few things. And so, realistically speaking, I'm thinking in the 900s, but I know if I said the 900s, I'm going to get shut down.
Yes.
So I called one of my buddies at Royal LePage, and I'm like, hey, I know you have a listing, out here in, out here. What are your thoughts of this house and the price? So we both agreed on a price.
Yep.
And I went in, and the seller agreed with me, right? And even at that price at 1.1, I was way over.
Yeah.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
And two other agents came in behind me. Yeah. $200,000 over.
Over what you thought, what you would sort of chatted about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so. And I was flabbergasted because I'm like, I don't see the comparables to that. Yeah. Because market value is not based on what is actually active. Yeah. It's what's sold.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we don't have out-of-town buyers anymore, right?
100%.
It's local people who know the market. They're not stupid.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the biggest challenges that's always existed there is that some people in the industry believe it's a good practice to try and just, I would say, fluff up the seller a little bit there by offering an opinion of value that's higher than what they actually perceive it to be, right? And it's really important for sellers to think about, what is it that you are judging the people coming in to talk to you about selling your home on? What are you judging them on? Are you judging them on, are you going to give me the highest price of anyone who walks in here? Because I can count pretty high, and I will make up the highest number I can come up with. Or are you going to come and come researched with what you think is the appropriate price? Are you going to give me a marketing plan that's going to work? Are you going to represent my best interest all the way along? And if those are the things that you're measuring on, then I think you're going to end up in a good relationship with someone. Because if all you're measuring on is who's going to give me the highest price, well, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Because
I get stressed.
Yeah, it's so often it doesn't come true, right? And I know one of the things that I love that you measure is not just the the sale price versus where it was last listed, but the sale price versus where it was originally listed, meaning how many times have they brought the price down before they finally enact a sale. And each time they bring it down, that represents a moment of disappointment for a seller. So
right, because and I know a lot of people don't, they just look at the listing price versus the selling price, but it's the original price.
The original price is relevant.
And, I've seen agents like where, there was one particular listing that would have sold this year that would have sold $1 million under.
Yep.
And several of them, typically anything over $1 million is going to, a couple of $100,000 usually.
Yep, absolutely.
And there was another property that was out in, I don't know, Eastover.
Yeah.
Listed at $999.
Yep.
Sold for $575.
Well, this is it, right? Yeah. And
But that is such a disparity.
Such a huge disparity. 50% or 60% is not the expectation of negotiation that you should have, right? It should be higher than. You should have a higher expectation of being within 5%, 10%. And to be fair to agents, this is a difficult time to price, right? And to be fair to sellers, I understand the neighbor effect, where the neighbor says, well, you should list it for $200,000 more than that. Didn't you hear about Jimmy around the corner who got that? And that's really hard to turn off. I understand all that, but that's why you have the professional coming in who brings you actual data about what's sold, what else is on the market that you're competing with, and you have a real discussion about what's the right strategy for you. There's so many websites now.
I've always said this year, we are in a seller's market with a buyer mentality. Nova Scotians are very, they know our market. They're on websites where they get, what it was listed at. They see the selling price, and they see everything that's happening around that.
That's right.
So they know. And is that turning a buyer off? Maybe. A buyer off. Is it turning a buyer off from putting in an offer?
Yeah.
It could, yes.
It could, absolutely. And one of the challenges with data and information, like you're saying, there's tons of data out there for people now, is that I'm drawn to data that supports my belief, right? And so if I look around and say, what is everything selling here for? And there's a range between 800,000 and 600,000. And I'm a seller, well, I pay more attention to the 800,000s in that range. If I'm the buyer doing the same exercise on the same neighborhood, looking at the same data, I'm really attracted to the $600,000 ones,
Absolutely.
right? And so that's where the professional comes in and helps bring that gap together.
Yeah. Now, so one or two of the driving factors we had a lot of interprovincial migration during COVID, which is not really apparent anymore.
Not much.
And, the foreign buyer ban, right? So there's so many restrictions. So the foreign buyer ban is right up till next December 2024. Do you think it's going to still be in effect after that?
I've come to believe that most restrictive legislation is hard to get out. So things like rent control and restrictions on foreign buyers. It doesn't just go away.
I don't see it going away in 2024
I'm not sure I see it
either.
Yeah. So while it's only legislated through that right now, I do believe that there is, if there's still similar conditions to what we're seeing, and it's unfortunately that's a federal one, so it's across the country we're talking about here. It could absolutely be extended, right? And I wouldn't be shocked to see that.
Yeah, no, we've had the conversations here at home that, again, I feel that it's going to be extended for sure. And there are still people who are moving here. We have our regular military moves, death, divorce, jobs.
Absolutely.
That still does happen. But, a lot of sellers aren't selling because there's nowhere to go, exactly. Yeah. We still have tight vacancy. Hard to find a rental, and it's just as hard to go find another place to buy. So my thing, I'm very grateful with the HST, that the new policy or program that they're implementing for high rises. We were talking with our builder. Why not do something for the builder? I think he quoted me that was around $16,000 worth of permits for every house that was pulled. And of course, that price is going back to the consumer.
It does,
And it's driving the price up. So why can't even provincially we offer something to the residential developers so the prices wouldn't have to be as high as they are?
It's interesting because the government tends to try and address the the portion of society that is struggling the most, right? And
Yeah.
so when you think about who would be struggling the most, it's people who can't afford a dwelling at all, right?
Yes.
And so, we're talking about homelessness, we're talking about people who are in and out of shelters or on government assistance in that respect. So the next step for those people is typically to find an affordable rental, and that's why you see the high-rise stuff come in, right? Where they make it more manageable for the people who are going to build purpose-built rentals to build properties, because adding more to the market should mean that prices on rents get sustained.
Yep.
But it does have to flow all the way up to people who want to buy homes as well, right? Because again, you just said it. If there's nowhere for me to go out of my rental into a home, I can't afford to go into a home because those costs remain high. Well, I'm not going to leave my rental, and it's not going to free up the space that naturally should be freed up to allow people to leave mom and dad's home, or who are in an underhoused situation to get into a reasonably priced rental. So it is a big chain, and people have to be moving all the way through
Absolutely.
the chain for it not to choke off at some point. And so I think your idea is a good one. You're talking about revenue for the province or the municipality in that case. Everyone's always a little sticky when it comes to giving
I
up
know, but if
revenue,
you think
but
about-
it should drive more tax, it should drive a bigger tax base, it should do all those things. And so it
But
should.
just look at the deed transfer tax that
Yeah.
was, that was collected
Yep,
during COVID.
absolutely.
That was probably, I mean, I don't know how far over their budget that it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
But,
Well, and the stat from way back when we were all in real estate school is that every time someone spends $1 on a home, 20 to 40 cents gets spent on furniture and renovations
Oh,
and
yeah.
other things, right? So housing is a huge spur of an economy. It spurs on economy in a tremendous way. And so you don't want to see it slow down dramatically or to a snail's pace, right? Like, you want it to continue on because it does drive so many other industries, right?
but there's a lot of builders slowing down this year. We just had a builder here that time talking with my husband,
Yeah.
and they are one of the busiest
Yeah.
who in 2023.
Yep.
And he said, yeah, we're pulling back.
Of course, yeah. Like, when you think about it, the cost of everything has gone up. So you felt the pain of inflation. And to combat inflation, what we've done is we've raised interest rates, right? And so now my cost of borrowing is higher while I continue to pay a lot for each piece of lumber that I buy. It just doesn't make sense to build these, whether it's multifamilies or single family homes. Like, you have to either charge a higher price or not build them for the time being, right? And so that's really a tough spot for builders to be in. And we can't ask builders to, operate out of the goodness of their heart. They're a for-profit business, and they have to go out and generate a bottom line like every other business out there. So
It's
a
certainly,
tough spot.
I think, a catch-22 for all parties who are involved.
Yeah, it's a tricky problem to have to solve. But I mean, I think that the idea of trying to spur on ways in which we can create more supply is a win for everybody, because we still have people moving to the country and specifically to us, moving to our province. We have people having kids, and those kids are growing up, and those kids are wanting to go out, and we have a big generation of people who want to get into housing. And so the only way to truly solve it is to create more housing options. And so
Seems pretty simple.
It does seem simple, but incentivizing it is tough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again, Matt, for your time.
My pleasure, as always. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.